Black cisgender heterosexual identified men are killing Black trans women. Black ones.
We are not talking about it in the church.
Those street guys are already engineers. If they're mixing drugs and stuff together, they're chemical engineers.
If you're just like, yeah, let's kill 50 cops just because, you know, that's only a fraction of the Black people that they killed. Wait, now you're talking about my wife.
For those of you who are joining in, we are talking about just the housing in the Black community and owning property, why it's important, and how to get yourself in there.
When I think of financial literacy, I just don't think of the classroom work. I think some of it is practical application.
I'm scared, especially, you know, calling them to arms, talking about poll workers or poll watchers. That is rooted in history of voter suppression and intimidation.
Joe Biden needs to make that a part of his educational platform.
Call that shit out.
I don't see much value in you speaking in tongues, and yet when you speak in English, you don't say nothing for my people.
Many of the reasons why we're dying is because of the conditions we live under that cause our health to be so bad, and that cause it's the food, it's the water, it's clean that shit up first.
When their fathers have prostate cancer, I had like a 150% chance of getting cancer, being diagnosed with cancer. I had a friend that did a raw vegan diet, 20 years remission, had thyroid cancer, never had surgery. I'm like, that's what I'm doing.
This week in Black People Shit, paid in full, financial literacy and generational wealth in the Black community. I'm your host, Chrystee Pharris. In this time where 41% of Black businesses are predicted to permanently close and 90% of Black businesses did not receive any assistance from the government's payment protection program, the conversation surrounding economics in the Black community is more important than ever. Questions like, how do we invest? What do we invest in? And what are the best ways to transfer wealth generationally? They have been topics of discussion in many beauty salons and barbershops for years. Here to answer some of those questions and many more are Emmy Award-winning actor and day trader, Branden Wellington, wealth advisor, Milton Coleman, actress Janora McDuffie, and writer Abdul Majid. And let me bring everybody in.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing?
Welcome. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hope you guys enjoyed your weekend. So we are going to dive in before we get started with the whole financial everything that we definitely want to learn and understand. Let's talk about what happened over the past 4th of July weekend when 6 children across the country lost their lives due to gun violence. So we had 2 8-year-olds, one in Atlanta, one in Alabama, 11-year-old in Washington, D.C., 2 in Chicago, 7 and 14, and 1 who was 6 years old in San Francisco. Even the radio host, Rick Smiley, his daughter was shot over the weekend as well. So what are your thoughts on this gun violence that's happening now that everything is opening back up along with the Black Lives Matter movement? We'll start with you, Branden.
It's very unfortunate to start there. You know, violence in any capacity, especially when it's children whose lives are just now beginning. You know, my prayers and thoughts go out to parents as well too. You know, I've lost many people in my life to gun violence as well too, and it's just a sad thing that when people are young, because you don't think when someone's 3 years old, 4 years old, they've lived half their life already. You know, It's a terrible thing to even hear. And I think with everything going on lately, as far as quarantine, you could see there's plenty of reports where they even said attempted suicides we've already had a year's worth of attempted suicides in the last 4 months. Also, depression has been at an all-time high as well too, and I think it's also adding to the frustration, aggression that we may see pouring out through our communities and through our country as well too. So when I think about how can something like this be happening so much so fast, you know, I think a lot of it is it could get linked back to mental health as well as the current times that we're living in. You know, as far as what we can do to curb that, it's not as if there's a shortage of organizations out there every single day to protest violence in every community, and not just police brutality, but also in the Black community as well too.
Yeah. I mean,
in my opinion right now, it's just sad and unfortunate.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you feel like, how can we get this to stop? And why are we still killing when we're fighting against being killed? But not the correct way of saying it, but being killed by the cops. How about you, Janora?
Well, a couple things before I dive deep into this very deep and important topic. First off, I like the new look, Chrystee.
Thank you.
Secondly, I actually had the privilege to interview Branden for my Urban Come Up podcast. And this brother was just so beautiful that I had to invite him to grace us with his presence. So thank you for being here. And in terms of the folks who have checked in so far, what's up, Tangerine? And what's up, Monica? And what's interesting was with your question and this whole topic is this type of violence is not new. Unfortunately, it's not new. What is new is the height of where we are now as people united in a protest for something better. So now it's like, what are we going to do? We are at a point where so much power is here, so much attention is here. This is not a new problem, but the attention to this extent is new. So what are we going to do? And that's what I would love to see.
Milton, how about you? You're on mute. You're on mute. I don't think you guys have to put yourselves on mute at the moment.
Okay. Well, it's truly heartbreaking. It hurts. It's sad. It's something that's been going on for some time now. It's not something just yesterday. And it's one of those things where we're finally. I am grateful that we're now finally to see it's shine light on this issue that we've been faced with, challenge with. Growing up in New Orleans to California, you know, I've been faced with a lot of challenges, and I'm sure all of us probably been faced with our own challenges. But it's been very hurt. I mean, cutting on the TV, seeing different situations happen from time after time after time, and just like, hey, wake up! I mean, Black Lives Matter. Like, and And but I am grateful that I always like to look for the positivity in any type of situation. And one thing that I do I do love is that it's bringing us together. I see a lot of us are coming together. We want to work together, grow together, build together. So I'm kind of trying my absolute very best to keep my mind on the positive side of things. But it's heartbreaking, and we all want change. Yeah. And I'm truly blessed that the cameras are rolling. The people are recording, and that now is being documented, and now we can wake up the world. And truly, hopefully, that we pray for change, and we all want to see change.
Right. Abdul, did you want to chime in? Hey, Faye, great to see you, Faye.
Yeah, just really quick. What you saying?
No, go ahead.
No, I was just really quickly. I don't expect niggas to not act like niggas, and niggas shoot. So they did it in the '60s during the protest in Alabama and in Atlanta and where have you. I mean, if you look at anything like the Black Panthers in Oakland, part of what they had to do was they had to go around and protect the community from some of the drug dealers, and they would get money and stuff from the drug dealers. So it's not something new that happened, even though it's a Black Power movement. It happened in the time of the Civil Rights Act that we had to stop Black people from harming other Black people. So just the progression.
Well, it's interesting that you're bringing it up because the whole Terry Crews was on Don Lemon a couple of days ago, and he started talking about how all lives matter and Black supremacy, and that's not what we want. We don't want to go from one extreme to the next. And he's been getting a lot of backlash from it. And I can't lie, it made me upset because it reminded me of how people felt about the Black Panthers, where they were considered like these militant type guys, which to a certain degree, but there was so much good that they did. So I wanted to get to a place where if I saw him, I probably would cuss him out just for the things that he's been saying with the Black community and everything. But I'm curious to see how you guys felt if you guys get a chance to see it, and what your thought process was on it. Janora, you look like you ready.
Oh, girl, yes, thanks for calling.
Go ahead.
Because I watched the interview. And I really pride myself on being a free thinker, right? You're not going to tell me how to think. I'm going to listen critically, and then based on my own heart and belief system, I'm going to decide how I'm going to live my life or how I'm going to be part of the solution. So when Terry Crews went on Don Lemon's show, that was hard to watch. At first I was like, oh Lord, this is the blind leading the blind. But what Terry Crews, I believe, was saying is that we do have to think critically. And if someone does, if it is a movement and someone says something different to like say, hey, but think about this, we can't just cancel them out. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't necessarily have to take what they believe, but it just seemed like Terry Crews was just cancel culture for, I think, his, I'm not even going to try to clarify what he said, because he talked about, Black supremacy. We talked about that on an earlier show about how that doesn't exist because it's rooted in power, and we don't have the same power as the white majority structure in our society. But he said, if it's Black, it doesn't make it right. If it's white, it doesn't make it wrong. And I'm going to like die on the hill for this. Will trade a Clarence Thomas for a Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I think what happened with Terry Crews is he kind of comes with this whole kind of Uncle Tom thing about him. If Killer Mike said the exact same thing that Terry Crews said, because it's coming from a Killer Mike standpoint or voice that we trust, then I feel like we would think about it more. But I think already, because it's Terry Crews opening his mouth, we just canceling him, when I really think that he had some legitimate points. And I think Don Lemon should work on his interviewing skills, because he just cut the brother off the entire time.
Okay, but here's my thing, and I really want to let other people get in. And listen, I don't have anything against Terry Crews. All the other stuff that he said, I'm like, I always look at it as, okay, well, he's expressing himself. Maybe he didn't say it the right way, but he has good intentions. But when he started bringing up the same thing that white people bring up of, Black on Black crime and blah, 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 and all this stuff, and I'm going, wait, hold up. I get what you're saying, but that is not what the fight is right now. This is about equality, and that's why I had an issue with him.
Well, and I think that that's a very good point, in that I think these Black voices that are expressing something different or going outside of the norm, white people are using them as tools to see, racism doesn't exist. See, I told you, they need to clean up their own neighborhoods first. So I think it becomes dangerous when it's used by the white folks to keep us in place or not take this movement seriously or forward.
Okay, so let me let some of y'all brothers jump up in here. Go ahead. Let me get Abdul up in here. What you got to say?
Well, I think Terry Crews is putting the cart before the horse with regards to the whole Black supremacy thing. I think my only concern or problem with it is that it echoes a sentiment that's been going through history of, if Black people get in the place of power, we'll do the exact same thing that white people did to Black people. I mean, white people did to Black people. And that's my concern with it, is that he's regurgitating these ideas from the 1800s about Black people being in power and being as oppressive or as destructive as they have been. And that's not our history. Historically, it's from Africa to this day. Our history has not been behaving the way that they have behaved. So I think it's a fallacy across the board. And this whole Black on Black crime thing, crime is about proximity. Everybody knows that. Crime, Black to white, is 2 to 1. So it's not a real thing. It's just something that they say to stir the pot. But I think he was extremely incorrect, and I think he just needs to shut up.
Milton, you want to jump in there?
I actually missed his speech, or I'm not even sure when he spoke on this issue, but I missed it to chime in on and give my point of view on it.
So let me just again, basically, he was on there and he said, we don't want to go from one extreme to the next, which is white supremacy to black supremacy. And a lot of people are saying we can't have black supremacy when we have no control over the money, over power, over, being in office and so forth. So, and then everybody just started going off on there and just.
Okay. Well, I probably wouldn't agree with that just because just a few days ago I seen, I don't know if it was the Black Panther Party, but these guys came together, organized. It was a peaceful, and they actually used their amendment and their rights peacefully, and they came together. So just by seeing that in what you shared with me, I wouldn't agree with that at all.
How about you, Branden?
Oh, okay. I got a couple on to piggyback some of what Janora was speaking on. If what he had said that came from a voice in which we already trusted, maybe we would be a little more receptive to what he was saying. There's this thing, I call it the filing cabinet, and I'll give everybody the test on how the filing cabinet works. Right, like right now, think of someone that you worked with or for in the past that was like an incompetent jerk or just very difficult to work with. Anyone have a picture of someone like that in their mind?
Oh yeah.
All right, now the thing is, right? How long ago would you say you probably worked with that person? Maybe, let's say it could have been 2, 3, 4 years ago, right? 5 years, 10 years, but you remember. The issue is, right? And when you look at yourself as an individual, you probably aren't the same. You probably aren't the same as you were last summer. So you've changed 3 5 days. So when someone meets you, they may not meet the version of you that they remember inside their filing cabinet. So things have to be filed. And so I always say that it's when we already have an idea about someone, we place them in a filing cabinet.
Right.
And so whenever they pop up to say something, do something, we're already checking the files that we have on them in our memory and our minds. And we're like, oh, okay, I remember you. You're this, you're that. Ignore, reject. And so I always try to approach anything anyone says with fresh set of ears and a fresh mind, because I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. I'm not the same person I was a year ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, or whatever the case may be. So I want to always give people an opportunity to start off fresh with whatever idea that they have. So I went in listening to what Terry Crews was saying with an open mind. And, if you ever did a math paper and the teacher always says, make sure you show your work. Yes, you put the answer there, but you need to show your work. So it's kind of incomplete. You're like, so I think he's right on some points, but he's also incomplete. And this goes to what Abdul was saying about putting the cart before the horse sometimes, and also tying into some of what you were saying. A lot of this, yes, okay, black on black crime. 83% of white people kill white people. 90% of black people were killed by black people, as we have already established, that is proximity. But another thing, which Milton and I were, it kind of drives forward the conversation, that I read an article in the Root. I also think on New York Times, that crime is a very complex situation that isn't necessarily rooted just primarily in proximity, but it's also a socioeconomic issue as well too. And the fact of the matter is that oftentimes when you feel deprived of certain basic rights, basic needs, there's a need to lash out. Maybe there's anger, frustration. When you don't know when your next meal is coming from consistently, or you're struggling to get just the basic things in life, that creates, in my opinion, aggression. When I didn't have much, hell yeah, I was mad. It's very difficult to be mad in a Benz. It's difficult to be mad on a beach somewhere and hanging out with people that you love.
That is true.
So I think part of it is socially economic rooted, and people do not talk about that a lot, which then takes us back to the foundation of this country, and how from the beginning of time, from the beginning of the establishment of this nation, there's always been an economic divide between both races, causing, in my opinion, aggression, frustration, spilt over anger, which may also lead to violence.
So that's really good. I think that's a good segue into what we're going to be discussing, because economically, we're just not in the right place. We're still growing, we're still learning. I think a lot of us don't know how to invest our money. We don't know how to like what to do, how to get houses, how to get, opportunity in housing and stuff like that. Kevin said that crime is rooted in poverty, which is true. One of the things that I did read up on is a white household in Boston is more likely than non-white households to own every type of liquid asset. For example, a quarter of Blacks don't have either a savings or checking account, compared to 7% of whites. And the same thing too about home ownership. 80% of whites own a home, whereas only 1/3 of Blacks are homeowners. So we're about to dive on in to this financial side of things, get us some information. And I'm gonna let Janora take over, because Janora knows these wonderful people, brought them on the show so that we can teach y'all how to invest your money, what to do with your money, what are the basics, how do we even get to the basics of what we need to be doing. So go ahead, Janora.
Absolutely. All right, I would love to take over from here for a second and do these brothers justice with a proper introduction. First, though, as a segue to what you just broke down, Chrystee, in terms of the historical context, I can't help but to think of that sister who gave that Monopoly analogy about how we couldn't even play for the first 100 rounds. And then after we started playing, they took the game back and changed the rules. So now I finally feel like, all right, it still ain't even close to even, but at least we got the dice. So these two brothers are going to talk about how to properly use the dice so we can monopolize on this game of Monopoly, right? We're going to roll with that. So Branden is a fantastic actor and spoken word artist, but Emmy Award-winning spoken word artist, let me say. But in addition to that, the brother invests, he day trades, he's got his own group of brothers who do things. And one of, what do they say, birds of a feather flock together? One of the birds in the flock that is flying high is Milton. Milton is a wealth advisor specializing in the 3 A's, which are actors, artists, and athletes, helping manage their multi-million-dollar business accounts. So we are about to hear from them as they drop some knowledge on, how we best monopolize rolling this dice now that we have it back in our hands.
Absolutely.
All right. So go ahead, Branden, jump on in.
It's always a complex situation. So I will start with how I think everything should be approached. First off, before anyone could even take an interest in anything, there must be a level of passion and care, concern, and you see the need to want to do it. Investing for me started 9 years ago when I was in my early 20s. And for me, it became a thing that I could use to empower myself whenever entertainment wasn't going the way I saw fit, or whenever I needed to possibly leave a job, or so I always needed to have something extra on the side. But it wasn't just about me, First and foremost, a lot of us, if you know someone that is an African American in this country that's maybe 35 and below, they're probably the first or second generation in their family with full equal rights by law. So this is the beginning of even having an opportunity, which is what, she said, we just got the dice. So we're like first, second generation with the opportunity to actually do something. And I would say, I think the most important thing is understanding why you need to do it. As we talked about, crime, mental health, these are all, one of my mentors used to say that money isn't everything, but it's right up there next to air, because it dictates where you live, what type of car you drive, what type of education you can have, what type of food you eat. And that also influences your health, which influences how long you can live. And so it's not everything, but it's just up there close to air. And when you start understanding how important it is, you eventually start to ask yourself, well, what can I do about it? Another person I heard said that every dollar that you make is like a little employee, and you can either send it on a vacation or you can send it to work for you. Every dollar you spend, every dollar required is an employee. Can it work for you, or will you spend it all?
So how do you make it work for you?
I think the most important thing is say you're not a multi-million dollar income earner. Milton works with a lot of people that, for the most part, are already, have extra money to invest. But what if you don't have extra money? What do you do? I always say that overhead is everything. It's never what you make, it's what you keep. Someone who makes $1 million a year but have $990,000 in expenses every year, and someone has $10,000 left at the end of the year. Someone who makes $40,000 but spends $20,000 has $20 left over. So who's really in a better situation? It's whoever has much left. So I think the most important thing is starting to understand, well, what am I spending my money on? Where are these employees going? And is it benefiting me? And when I got to that point, I started cutting off a lot of things. Sacrifices must be made. There was times that when I lived in New York, I walked from 34th Street to 125th Street to save $2.25 worth of employees. And I was like, y'all can stay today. I'll get some.
Yeah, no, I just
some employees on a walk. Sacrifice. And the less I had going out, the more employees I had staying, started thinking about what I can do with this. And breaking the back of poverty starts with eradicating debt. It's hard to think about wealth when you're thinking about debt. Get rid of that first. Lower your overhead. Make sacrifices. If it could change your life 5 to 10 years from now, why wouldn't you want to do it? The time is going to pass anyway. So you might as well start where you are today. And I was doing this when I was making less than $20,000 a year, $10,000 a year.
Milton, so you're the man who helps people to invest their money, right? Like to know what to do with it. What would you add to that? So that people here can actually, so that people who are on here, when they leave this conversation, they will have action steps that they can use when they walk out of here.
Well, the first question is where do we start? You walk into a wealth advisor, financial advisor office, and the first question, where do we start? And you have to think about finances like building a home. You can't build a home on a weak foundation, or that home is going to come what? Down. So when you're building that foundation, you got to ask yourself the next question. Who are you? Are you the person that save first, spend second, or spend first and save second? But the person who spends first will always work for the person who's saving first. And that's the problem that we have in our community. We're spenders. We're not savers. When I first started working in the financial world, and I was working with a Jewish family, and their child was in the office, and the father, the child wasn't even 7 years old, and he's told his son, save 10% of everything you make to never touch. I had my first job when I was 12 years old. If my mother would have shared with me and said, Milt, from now on, you're 12 years old, I want you to save 10% of everything you ever make and never touch. I want you to be obedient. Once you give yourself a command, you have to follow it. I want you to be obedient. If she would have shared, and that's the one of the problems I see in the community is that the lack of information and programming. We've all been programmed. But to go back to that first question, you have to ask yourself what type of a person you are. Are you a person who's going to spend first? Or are you a person who's going to save first? When you get a great understanding of the kind of person that you are, and you want to become that business owner, you want to become that person that transitioned to wealth, and it is levels to this. 96% of people trade their time in for money. I mean, I go to a 9 to 5. You pay me to work here for an hour, and then I go home. But when you become part of the top 3%, it's when you make money one way, you fund it behind another asset, and then that start paying for your life. And when you become part of the top 1%, is when you go to bed at night. And you make so much money when you go to sleep at night, you wake up to enjoy it. And that's how you start transitioning wealth to the 1%. And you have to learn about passive income. But when you're building that financial plan and you're building that house, the question you have to ask yourself is where all the money is going. And that's when I have my clients and we take a snapshot. I take a snapshot of, number one, what are your financial priorities? What are your priorities? Let's make a plan around your priorities, because if I have you focusing on investing into retirement, your mind is going to be focused on what you're focused on. So I love to first start our meetings off. What are your top 3 financial priorities? Let's focus on your top 3. Once we have a great understanding of your top 3, we take a snapshot. Revenue versus expense. Let's get a great understanding how much money is coming in through that door. Let's get a great understanding how much money is leaving. Once we have a great understanding of revenue versus expense, we can now put ourselves on a budget, a Monday budget. Let's get better control over our finances. Every single Monday, we should have a certain amount of money to spend on our variable bills. Our fixed bills, we know what they're going to be. I know my rent. I know my car note. I know my cell phone. But how much am I out eating, partying with Branden, out traveling? So our variable bills, we got to put a cap on our variable bills to have more control over our finances. And once you take that snapshot, once you have that Monday budget, then you can start focusing on those short-term goals, those long-term goals, and start building yourself a retirement plan that you can depend on. I teach my clients about those tax-free accounts. How do you build a financial plan to where you don't have to pay taxes? What accounts that are available that you can touch money before the age of 59 and a half and after 59 and a half tax-free? So when the IRS is playing the game, we can run over to those accounts that all that tax money is sitting out while they pay high on their taxes. But that's what we've been getting losing. We've been paying the taxes and they've been saving on the taxes. So, and sorry, I can go deep with this, but you have a question for me?
No, well, I'm sure.
Say one thing. Milton, I laughed when you talked about like how much is coming in. You need to get a snapshot because I always laugh. This is a quick point. You ever got your tax returns back and you look at it, you say, okay, I made how much this year? Where?
Right. Right.
Everybody has done that at some point. You're like, there's no way in the world I made what this shit I made this year.
Yeah, because I think a part of us don't. I think we just don't pay attention. I think we're afraid of looking at the money that we have coming in. And Janora, before you jump in, I want to put, if you are watching the show, all of you guys who are watching the show, if you guys do this, put that in the chat. Or how many of you guys don't do it? Put it in the chat. I'm just curious to know how many of you guys, this information, is it helping you? All that good stuff. So make sure you put that in the chat. I know Janora got something great. I know. Go ahead, Janora. I'm sure you got something good to bring up.
Oh man, I got something good to ask. Everything these brothers talking about, I'm like, sign me up. So for those people, all right, let's just say I go through the first couple steps, right? I at least recognize how much outgoing expenses I have, how much I can cut back down on in terms of my nails and all the other optional expenses I can do or make in a month. I've got the difference and I'm ready to do something with it. How do I know where to start with that? Like, how can I learn on my own what to do after I've done the homework to stop spending the bullshit, to be a saver instead of a primary spender? Okay. I'm guilty. I will admit that. Where do I go after that? What do I do after that?
First, I would pay myself first. When money come into me, I'll create myself as if I am a bill. We have all these bills in our life, car, house, we put all these bills before us. But if you start putting yourself priority and you start paying yourself first, and once you start paying yourself first, you now can take that bill and fund these 3 areas of your life, 6 months of expense.
What do you mean when you say pay yourself first, Milton?
Create yourself as if you are a bill. You know how you have a car note? You know how you have a cell phone? You know how you have rent? You have all these other bills. You become a bill and you pay yourself first. You pay yourself first before you pay any other bill, because all these bills come and go, but you will never be able to jump out of your body and jump into mine. And you can't argue with that. So you pay yourself first.
Wait, so let me ask you, when you say pay yourself, is that something that we're putting away saving? Or is that, like, what are we doing with that money? Because people always say pay yourself, but I don't know if people really understand what that means.
Well, it starts with having a goal.
What we do with it. Mm-hmm.
It starts with having a goal, and you never just want to have a career goal. You want to have a personal goal. If you come in my office and say, Milt, I want to make $500,000, then we have to put the plan. Well, where do you plan on spending it? What is your personal goals? And then when you have a great understanding of your personal goals, you start studying these shells that they have. What are these IRAs, Roth IRAs, all these investment accounts, and these tax codes? Study tax codes, because the more money you make, you got to pay more in taxes. So you want to put your best tax plan together. So study the tax codes and get a great understanding of where you're going, because none of this is going to really matter if you don't know where you're going. So when you have a great understanding of where you're going in life, with your goals, with your short term, with your long term, then you can do your homework. Then you can come and see a guy like myself where I can educate you on which shells that's going to allow you to achieve these goals. So I create myself as if I am a bill, and I fund areas of my life. You need to understand what is a need, what is a want. 6 months of your lifestyle parked away for a rainy day is a need. I don't care if you have $1 billion or $100, you're going to be faced with a financial emergency at some point. So have that money parked away for a rainy day, just ready for something to pop off. That's that 6 months of savings account. Then you have your retirement. The reason why I skipped over that short term, because I'm focused on a need right now. Understand needs. You need a retirement. When you turn 60 years old, you can't say, hey, yo, Milt, can we dial back when I was like 10, 20, years ago when I first came you off, and can we start this over? I didn't save enough. It's too late. You know that thing they say, save $1 a day and $2 for tomorrow? Because when tomorrow get here, there's no turning back to yesterday. So you have to learn how to save. I actually went to a bunch of my clients that were over 60 years old, and I asked them one question. This was last year. I said, sir, if you can go back 20 years and tell yourself one thing, what would you tell yourself? And most of them, 9 out of 10 said, I would save more money. I would save more money. So I was like, you know, I'm going to have my clients become big savers, and the first bill they pay is themselves. Fund that 6 months of expense. Every time you pull from your savings, pay yourself 10% interest. That's going to cause that savings account to grow. Because if money is not growing by 3%, you're losing to what's called time value of money, which is inflation. And we've seen it from gas prices, groceries, and everything else. I lived in New Orleans. Bag of chips was 25 cents. I go to a vending machine, it's like $1.25, probably less chips in the bag. But that's inflation. So you want to make sure that your money is growing with inflation. And I have my clients disciplined, obedient. Pay yourself 10% every time you pull from your savings account. You have those short-term goals when you're ready to buy that house, when you're ready to buy that car, and then that's when you start studying stocks, mutual funds, any vehicle that you're using to grow your money. But you got to start with your goals, and then you can do your research to implement those shells that tell the IRS how to treat the money inside of there, so that you can actually achieve that goal.
So you know what? You touched on a lot of important topics too, and I think what I can add to it, a lot of which I agree with. So the initial question. Suppose you did those steps, which as you did all the steps, you figured out this, you tracked your debt, you tracked your money. What do you do next? And I think the most important thing you do is kind of what you do when you go to spend, right? They say that most of the time we mentally spend our checks before it even reaches the bank. It's like, X amount.
I think we're losing him again. Okay, so definitely answer what he was saying, what you do, but I want to take it back just a little
mindset.
bit.
Oh, did it cut out?
There you go.
Yeah, it did.
The whole thing.
Right. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I'll back up a little bit.
But let me go ahead. Oh, I just wanted to go back just a little bit. Do you, because Tangerine talked about the Dave Ramsey. One of the things that he talks about is making sure that you get out of debt first and all of that.
I agree with that.
Do you take the money and do you pay off your debt, or do you take the money and you start putting it into savings and doing all that and investing?
I'll say this. I'll say it's different strokes for different folks. When I first got like my first TV show, right, it wasn't that much money. I took all that money I had and I paid off like student loans and any other commerce stuff. And I got to a point where I was debt free and cash poor. But the beauty of being like debt free and cash.
We're losing him again. Milton,
my great grandfather, James Horse, he said that one thing that he said, if you have a penny and you don't owe, if you only have a penny and you don't owe it to nobody, you're one of the richest persons in the world. And so for me, I always thought about, okay, cool. What I'll do is I'll get debt free, and I was cash poor. But I knew the next time I went to work or the next time I did something, that was mine.
Yeah.
Next thing I
changed my philosophy. I'm sorry, I thought you were.
Last thing, and then I promise you can jump in. I love listening to Milton speak, and I would start mentally thinking about where I could spend my money as far as education goes. I think the first step is, now that I have gotten rid of some of the problems, next I need to start working on some of the solutions. And before you jump in anything, I think information and education is the most important thing. You wouldn't do a surgery without first going to school to learn to be a doctor. I think it's the same thing when it comes to investing. You wouldn't throw your money into something without first learning everything you need to know, or at least enough to take action. And so for me, I started going to different schools online that I found to start learning about how to invest. And so I would say, all right, it was tough for me to spend money on things, but I would drop dollars on courses. I was like, you could get me to buy like a steak at a restaurant, but I'll drop $1,000 on some knowledge real quick. And like, that was my thing. I changed the desire for buying commerce to buying information now. So I went from buying, tangible knowledge assets. And
I think we're losing him again. Milton, go ahead and
kind of just pick up, but this is how I look at it. It's almost like bad.
Give me a thumbs up in the chat. Loading circles on my back.
Yeah, we're gonna let Milton jump in just so we can make sure. I'm gonna
Sorry.
check. Sir.
So
That's okay.
when it comes to debt, there's good and bad. High interest rates. If I have debt that's 18%, of course you pay that off immediately. That's 18% eating away at your money, 18% return. But sometimes some people may have some debt on the books about 3% or 2%. But it all depends on having a plan, having a strategy. Because I'm debt free, but when I've came across mentors of mine, I'll tell you guys. Okay, I'll go right on this. So at 30 years old, one of my mentors really educated me on passive income. How do you get in passive income? How do you go to sleep at night and make money to where you can wake up to enjoy it? And around 2005, New Orleans was faced with Hurricane Katrina. Real estate dropped to pennies. We got some insurance money, put some bonus money together. As a family, I called my mom, my sis, my dad, and we started a group chat. And they was willing to let me lead. And what we did was we put our money together and we started purchasing multiple homes in New Orleans. We started paying all these homes off, and we paid them all cash. And then when I got to my mentor, he made me feel like I was doing a bad thing. And he taught me about leveraging debt, how America is leveraged, how the wealthiest people leverage, and how to leverage. Because I was scared of debt. I was scared of interest, paying anything on interest, until I learned how to leverage debt correctly. And I mean, simple as, let's say if you had $100,000 debt at a 3% interest and you purchase a home in New Orleans for $100,000. Where if you give that home to Section 8 at, let's say, $1,000 a month income, and your note on that $100,000 at a 3.75% interest rate over a 30-year fix is about $390 a month. So if I'm renting a house out to the government, getting guaranteed money, making about $1,000 a month, but my debt is $360, I'm now able to pay that house off with double the amount of money that I'm receiving, pay the house off half the amount of time, and now I have this asset that's going to feed my family for the rest of my life. And I did that with debt. I didn't have the money at the time, but I leveraged my debt to get more money. But a lot of people are not disciplined. Like, I give you something about myself as well. I don't want to say certain things, but there's great tax strategies that I use that I don't pay taxes during a year, and I invest my money and I pay my taxes. If you pay taxes during a year, you don't understand the time value of money, and you're giving the IRS a free loan. They're making money off your money, and at the end of the year, when you do your taxes and you guys get happy about that good refund, you just gave them too much money to make money off your money. But if you become a business owner, you invest your money, and then you do your write-offs, you get your great CPA that can get you you structure your business, get your write-offs, and when you pay your you ready with the IRS say you have to pay them, then you get ready to pay them, and you don't have to wait for them to send you a check. You send them a check, and you send them a check off your profits that you sold from your mutual funds, you sold from your investments, you sold from your assets. And then when my CPA say, well, Milt, you made X, Y, Z, you got your write-offs, et cetera, you got to owe the IRS X amount of dollars. I sell my profits, pay my taxes, the money I would have given them. I take my family on a vacation every year. You can look at my Instagram every year. My family flies out of the country.
Okay, Milton. All right, let me just do a little wave over here. Yeah, go ahead.
This guy here.
Look, let me just do one of these. So important information, amazing, absolutely amazing between the both of you, just dropping the knowledge. And of course, if any of you guys are interested in working with Milton, I put his contact information right there. That's his telephone number that you can reach him. If any of you guys want to learn how to do all of this, make sure that you reach out, because it's time for us to stop being poor. Having all of this extra stuff that we have, the car and all that kind of stuff, but are poor. So it's time for us to make some changes, because we're about to make it happen. Abdul, you got anything you want to add before we jump to our person of the week? I think he might be a little, you good?
Say it again, it went out? I don't know.
No, this guy's did an amazing job. They're good. They're absolutely great. Thank you both for being on the show.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Each one teach one.
Yeah, there you go. So go ahead, Janora. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to catch up to Brother Milton up there, just dropping all kind of amazing needed knowledge, which is where I'm going with my final comment before we get onto land and our Black Person of the Week. And that is, how do we make voices like Milton's voice, voices like Branden's voice, the primary voice, or voices in the current conversations of what we look at when we open up Instagram or open up our news app, instead of who's wearing what, or what athlete is doing X, Y, and Z in the club. I mean, I know that not necessarily we control that narrative and it's part of the media and a desire to keep us down, but I would just love for these brothers and what they are sharing to be the primary part of what we talk about and information that is shared, instead of the Yeezy sneakers that are coming out in, you know.
Well, part of it, we gotta get past like worshiping our victimhood, worshiping our trauma. You know, like it's such a, you know, I came up from nothing. I didn't do this, you know, like obviously, you know what I mean? Like I just told you, we like first, second generation, but that's the start. We can't stay there. So the next is like, you know, what is more important? Like, say, you know, we're looking at clothes and shoes. The first thought you should be having is not, you know, should I buy this outfit, or what company is doing this and are they successful at it? Clearly, because I see it. Is there any way to get involved with their company? Is there a way to get a piece of that today, tomorrow? Can I profit from other people's business? Like always, one thing I ask people is like, what's a company you love to work for? And they's like, oh, in a perfect world, I'd love to work for Nike. I love Nike. And I was like, listen, if you think Nike's doing good, they've been doing good without you. They don't need you. But what you can do is just go invest in somebody and let them do what they're good at, and you benefit from that.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Hey, preach.
And I try to take that same approach with other things that I like.
Right. No, I mean, this is all good. I really hope that you guys out there that are watching the show, that's right. I use my student loan to chip away at my debt. So I really hope that all of you guys are getting so much out of it. Faye, I got to make sure I call you. The opportunity might be coming your way. I just want to make sure I tell you that. So again, for all of you guys who might be watching the show for the first time, every single week we make sure that we're honoring, that we are supporting somebody in the community who is doing well in the Black community, who is doing something for the Black community. It could be just for one person, or it could be for the whole entire community. So we have our BPS person of the week, and it is a woman who is making strides in educating families about land management and intergenerational wealth. She is the recent winner of Essence Magazine Build Your Legacy contest, honoring Black female entrepreneurs for her startup company, Air Shares, LLC. And as a death and dirt attorney, she is the director of Sustainable Forestry and Land Retention project at the American Forest Foundation. And you definitely gonna have to explain to me what all of that means or what you do. But please welcome Miss Mavis Greg. Wait, hold on. There we go.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you for being our BPS of the week. You have to tell me how to pronounce your last name.
Oh,
Greg?
it's Greg. Thank you for the honor. And yes, my name is Mavis Greg. Yeah.
Okay. I made sure I said it right, but I was putting you on mute, messing with buttons, and I was like, oh no, I didn't bring her on, and nor did I say her last name. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how the people in the community can benefit from your services.
Yeah, so I would say my personal mission with my work is to work with Black families whose wealth is centered around real estate. And as you mentioned, I'm the director of the Sustainable Forestry and African American Land Retention Project. So that's a project based in the southeastern United States where we're working with African American landowners who have land with trees. And I can tell you that 5 years ago, when I went on this journey, I did not think that I would be working with a conservation organization, yet alone networking with foresters. But forestry is a huge industry. If you look around your home, there are lots of things that are made from trees. And in North Carolina alone, forestry is a $28 billion a year industry. So we need to pay attention to trees. We also need to pay attention to our land. And that's what I do with my work.
Oh, very nice. And Janora is the one who brought you on. She kind of put this whole entire panel together. All these friends. Go ahead, Janora.
Hey, I am so blessed to be surrounded by such Black excellence. I just want to share the love and all that they have given to me with everybody from Black People Shit and those who tune in. Mavis, tell us about your app that you just developed and that it was part of your contest winner, being a contest winner for the Essence contest. Sorry. Go for it.
So AirShares, this is a COVID business. So I've practiced law most of my career, and I've worked with Death and Dirt, so helping families plan for transferring intergenerational wealth, and then also helping families problem solve around when the wealth is complicated and is locked up in legal issues. And what I learned was that many families pass their family land through inheritance. So there's two ways you can pass ownership of land. You can pass it through dying, or you can pass it by deed. And when it comes to family land, is often passed through people dying, inheritance. And it gets really complicated because how the laws work. The laws don't support family-owned land. And so what I learned is that people are eager to take care of their land. They're eager to be good stewards of their land. They're eager to make money off their land, but they need to navigate the legal complications of owning property with multiple people. If you imagine the six of us wanted to try to decide where we're going to go to dinner tonight, absent COVID, it would probably take us a while to come to a unanimous decision, and we may not be able to come to a unanimous decision. But what if we were trying to make an important decision about whether or not to fix up the old home place, whether or not to harvest the trees on the land? If the law requires you to make a unanimous decision, or if you don't even know who all the co-owners are, you are locked into a situation that's not helping you. And so AirShares aims to help people feel empowered to manage their family land, to collaborate with their co-owners, to connect with resources that will help them build the wealth through their land. And it's very exciting to me. Like I said, we founded it a few months ago. It's something that's been in the cooker for a while, but we launched the LLC and then entered the contest and won $10,000. So that was very exciting.
So where can people find you? Where can people find you?
Airshares.com.
Okay.
So if you go to airshares.com, that will take you. You can also go to our Facebook and our LinkedIn accounts. I recommend joining the newsletter so you can get updates for when the app launches. But yeah, check us out.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I have that right there. We're going to add it so that we can see it. Is that it right there?
That is correct. Thank you.
Oh, look at that. Well, again, we're really having a good time. Are there any questions out there in our chat land that people wanted? I think they had a question for you.
Yes, Faye, what county is your land in? We have a project in North Carolina. Or if you want to contact me through the app, we can talk about it.
Questions are the answers. What's going on?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said questions are the answers. Don't be afraid to ask.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I did spell it for you, Faye, which I put it on the banner. I'll put the banner back up right there. So before we wrap everything up, I want to ask, is there one last thought that you guys would like to share with the audience?
Well, if I can get on the soapbox, and I apologize, I didn't get to capture the whole conversation, but a lot of people feel like if they don't have a lot of wealth, that they don't need to do an estate plan. And from my experience as an attorney, those of us who have the least amount of wealth need the most planning in order to protect it from an intergenerational perspective. And even if something happens to you, if you become incapacitated. So there are a lot of strategies that you can work through with an attorney in order to create a plan that works for you. But don't think that just because you don't have a huge amount of wealth that you do not need an estate plan. Most of that wealth most of what you have, even if it is small, will be lost if you don't have a plan.
We did have another question before we go to Branden. Hold on just one second. There was a question. What are the most important documents people need to have in place regarding their land holding?
Well, if we are thinking of land that is passed from generation to generation by virtue of inheritance, it's really important to have a good comprehensive family tree, because the family tree is what the lawyers use to clear title, to clear ownership, and confirm who the legal owners are. So a really good family tree, death records, birth records. We often will exclude people who we don't think belong in the family or are not entitled to the family land, but I recommend you leave that to the attorney to decide. But heir shares, we hope, will facilitate a lot of that work for the family so that you know what kind of documents you need and are ready to talk with an attorney. Thanks for that question.
Absolutely. Okay, so Branden, I know you were going in and out. Oh, kind of sucks a little bit, but you did get you dropped some knowledge in the very beginning, just so that you know, and then it started to cut off a little bit. So is there anything?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. The thing is, I'm actually hardwired, so like I don't know, I'm actually hardwired to the internet, not even Wi-Fi. This is internet. It's like
So yeah, it should work the best. So do you have any?
But I guess some of my final thoughts that I would like to say here is that when we talk about what's going on in the country, again, we must remember that crime is also a result of a socioeconomic problem as well too. Part of some of the way in which we can curb crime in our community is also educating ourselves about finances. Remember, every dollar is an employee. Do your best not to fire them. Put them to work for you. Do your best to get out of debt, manage it, and use it in a way in which Milton would prescribe for you. Leverage it the right way. And most of the time we've been taught to spend. We must develop a habit of saving. It's one of the success. We have to just, look around you. Time is.
Yep. I think we're losing you again.
I know. When we're back though, time is short. We don't know how many days we're promised. So you lost so many people just in the past, week. And I think the most important thing is that we must overshower. We must overshower people with love, because we're really good at withholding some of the goodness that we're able to give to people. So let's use our words for good and our actions for good too, to uplift and build people, because slowly but surely we can start to erode cycles of mental and emotional abuse that we've inherited.
So Milton, you want to jump on in there?
Well, I want to thank you guys for inviting me on you guys' show, sharing some information. It's one of my passions, one of my goals. I've always felt that my life will become better by making other people's lives better. And so anytime I can, help or be of some assistance and provide any information, feel free to give me a call. You can reach me if you can also find me on Instagram at money_milt. And and I'm here. So give me a call if you have any questions, or reach me at Instagram.
Okay. Well, we'll get to Janora in a second. Abdul, you have anything that you want to add?
No, I thank everybody for coming on. The information was valuable and very important, and I appreciate all you guys, especially in this particular time, for sharing the information and being able and available to help any and all the people who are looking for it. Okay,
so Sean asked a question about fracking, and Mavis says, I do not work with fracking. She said that she's guessing that the land is somewhere that there is oil. So I just want to make sure that we did see the question. And then I want to make sure, before we, keep moving and allow Janora to say her last words, we want to say a special happy birthday to Janora. It is her birthday today. So thank you so much.
Happy birthday, Janora.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you being here, sharing it with us on your birthday. We know that you could be doing anything else, but this is your baby too, your show, so you're here. We did send you something. We were hoping that you would have gotten it by now. So Abdul and I sent something to you, but it hasn't arrived. We were hoping it was going to arrive around showtime. So maybe it's outside your door. Who knows? But just know that you have something special coming, because we really appreciate you. We love you. Thank you. And is there any last words that you want to say, Janora?
Yes. First off, thank you. I love you guys as well. I love you guys who tune in week to week. And then my folks from back home are in my circle. Reagan, you checked in. Tori, you checked in. Natasha down the street, you checked in. Tangerine, yes, so much love. So thank all of you guys and that part of the family. And in terms of my last words based on our conversation, thank you, Christopher, this is going to have my brother Branden's back. I remember Branden was speaking some knowledge, then he went radio silence, frozen for a while. But when he did come back, the last word that we heard him say audibly was mindset. It's okay. Because it helped with my last words, because your last word at that time was mindset. And I think that's part of this conversation as well that we haven't gotten a chance to get to. And that is first starting with, we are worth it, and that it is possible. That's all I got.
Well, there you go. Tangerine said, Branden, what is your Cash App? We want to help you out with your connection, with your Wi-Fi. So
when I saw it, yeah, it's $ Wells, BWELLZ. Donations are welcome, and we don't go over a certain amount. It's tax free, right, Milton?
Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna make sure we close out. Because we're at the end. Thank you everybody for joining the show. Again, as Janora says, it is possible. We can do it, and it is time for change. And we need to start paying attention to what we're spending our money and what we're doing with it. So if you want to reach out to Branden, you want to reach out to Milton, Mavis, please do so. We support Black people and their businesses. So we're going to sign out. Thank you everybody for joining. Have a good one, and we'll catch you on the Black side. All right.